Hey, friendo, Steve here. Welcome back to Ask WrestleJuice. You guys left a bunch of great questions. Let's go ahead and dive into it. First up from James Bell. Who should Gunther lose his championship to? Number one, let me address this. One thing that I think Triple H should totally do with that World Heavyweight Championship, we've already had one really long reign in Seth Rollins. We had a 4-month reign or so with Damian Priest. We do not need another 600-day, 1,000-day reign, whatever it's going to be, for the ring general Gunther. I love Gunther. I think he's great. Don't need to see one guy hog the title again, since chances are Cody Rhodes is going to have his title for quite a while. So that leaves the question, who should Gunther lose his championship to? Man, Raw is stacked. We all know that his next opponent is Randy Orton. Not going to be him. That's just a high-profile win for Gunther. I mean, other potential opponents down the line obviously include Seth Rollins, going to be out for a while, but I can see Seth Rollins being like a Royal Rumble opponent for Gunther, perhaps. Again, probably another high-profile feud for Gunther, another high-profile win for Gunther. Damian Priest could always go after it again. My pick is going to be Drew McIntyre. If Drew McIntyre takes it off of Gunther sometime between now and WrestleMania. So maybe that's the match at the Royal Rumble. Maybe Gunther has it until late January. Ooh, that would suck for him to not carry that into Mania. All right, how about this? Drew McIntyre beats Gunther for it at WrestleMania. And then he has like a dominant year-long reign. And assuming CM Punk is still in one piece, he finally gets his main event against Drew McIntyre for the title at WrestleMania, main event night 1 of WrestleMania 42. Ooh, do you think Punk's going to last that long? I don't know. I hope so. I love him. I think he's great. So yeah, maybe that's how I would book that one. Look, I don't want Gunther to have a 4-month reign, but I feel like an 8-month reign is just fine. And I think that takes us to WrestleMania. So I'm going to say Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania 41. I'll go with that. And then they can revisit the CM Punk thing. How about that? Is that good? Yeah. Punk's getting old, though. I don't know how much longer he has. All right, here's a cool question that kind of bends space and time. Senor Alien says, if you took Hulk Hogan, brother, at the start of his wrestling career and signed him to NXT in 2024, does he get over? So we're assuming that Hulk Hogan was born, what, like 40, 50 years later than he actually was. Here's the thing. Hulk Hogan in 1977, which I have a picture of it right here, that is not the same. Basically, you'd be looking at this going to NXT. So clearly, it's not the guy who's juiced to the gills in the year 1985. This was 8 years prior to that. Yeah, 8 years prior to that. And so you'd have to like modernize him. And look, I know the guy was a decent wrestler when he did the Japan rounds. He did know how to do the technical wrestling stuff. He was a larger guy, which they always like. I can't really speak necessarily to his athleticism, which, you know, WWE kind of prefers these days, some amount of athleticism. So I honestly don't know. I mean, let's be honest. You know, whatever you think of Hulk Hogan, the guy had camera charisma. The guy could look in the camera, and it was really difficult to look away from the camera or from the TV when he was staring into it, you know, talking about prayers and vitamins and stuff. So the answer to the question is, would you be able to take what he did back then and sort of put a modern spin to it, take those skills that he had, you know, whether it was whatever natural ability he had, whatever natural charisma he had, would that translate to today's product? And the question is, I have no idea. I'm inclined to think probably. You get a guy, look, if you get a big guy like that with charisma and, you know, he could move. I mean, he had a long career. It wasn't until later that he really started lumbering about the ring. I mean, I know his WWF style was lumbering around the ring, but if you look at him in like Japan in 1993, you know, the guy could still move. You know, I don't know. I kind of feel like he'd have a decent shot. He would have a good shot. You know, everybody, WWE always likes the larger guys, so I think he'd probably be okay. But that's a really big what if. That's a huge what if. I don't know. Nick Schwark says, if you had become a wrestler, what would your ring gear be? And what would have been your entrance theme? Probably like copy paste Kevin Owens. Like, you know, I'd have the sleeveless shirt with the cool duct tape logo, like some basketball shorts or some boxer shorts maybe to mix it up a little bit. I just cover everything up, you know, tape the wrists and the forearms, big elbow pads, kick pads on the boots and everything. Yeah, I would just look like that. He seems pretty comfortable in that attire, and that's what I would want to go for. I don't even if I became a wrestler, I don't know if I ever would have like gone down the extreme bodybuilding thing. And like I couldn't do Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston, I don't know how he's comfortable in that. Like he's got kind of a bigger belly and he wears like those singlets underneath like with some pants. I don't know. That wouldn't be me. I'd be like, everybody's looking at my big belly. So I'd wear a shirt. I'd wear a shirt with the sleeves cut off. Anyways, and my entrance theme song would be, boy, there's a lot of good ones out there. Probably Black Flag's Rise Above. Maybe it'd be that one. Maybe, I know somebody, I think, didn't like Rey Mysterio or somebody come out to Metallica's Sad But True. I feel like that'd be a really good wrestling theme song as well. I think he did. I think he came out to that in ECW, or somebody came out to that in ECW. But yeah, I'd go with that one. Mask of Zorowich says, in your opinion, is this year of Raw on pace to be the best year of weekly wrestling television of all time? Man, I don't know. Raws and Thunders in 1999. Thunders. Raw and WCW back in 1997, 98. I know there is some sketch stuff there, but man, nothing really. The energy of those shows, and plus they were only like, 2 hours long or whatever. Kind of nothing beats that. It really, every week, every single, like SmackDown's been kind of mid lately. So when you had Nitro firing on all cylinders and you had Raw firing on all cylinders, that was a pretty great time to watch some TV. Kane is 2020 says, what has Triple H done to keep CM Punk happy and in line? Is it catering? Is it one of those massage chairs? I honestly think that everybody's kind of grown up a little bit. I feel like now with Triple H in charge, he really did, like, even going back to NXT, Triple H seems to, number one, be a storyteller that I think probably more lines up with what CM, if you look at that NXT stuff, it really feels like it had some influence in the kind of stuff that CM Punk wanted to do, the long-term storytelling, et cetera, et cetera. When you throw Vince McMahon into the equation, I think that's where the real issues became a thing. And on top of that, I think more than anything, it was the treatment of the wrestlers. Like Vince McMahon would be running these wrestlers into the ground, and Triple H seems to be more wrestler friendly. I think because he was a wrestler, he understands physically the toll that it takes on wrestlers and what they need to perform best. And I think that's why so many wrestlers seem to prefer working under Triple H than Vince McMahon. And I think that's probably it. I think they're probably more alike when it comes to wrestling philosophies than maybe they had realized back then. At least that's sort of what I gather from Triple H's comments at one of those booty press scrums when he was talking about CM Punk. It seems like they've got similar values now. It seems like there's been a lot of growth for both men. And yeah, I think that CM Punk understands that his legacy is pretty much intact. And so at this point, it's about making money, maybe trying to influence the future and just tell some really good stories. Claus Techno says, how would you present Xavier Woods as a heel now that apparently the New Day is reaching their breaking point? Boy, what a great question. That's a difficult one because everybody loves Xavier Woods. The one thing you couldn't do is make it a very cartoonish villain, not like your typical, like, oh, I'm a bad guy, mwahaha kind of guy. I don't even think you can go down the Drew McIntyre route of, hey, you know what? I'm right. Everybody else is wrong. And he's got good points to it. I honestly don't know what you do with Woods because his personality is so magnetic. And I think people just want to root for the guy. And he's been a good guy for such a long time. And it extends not just within wrestling, but outside of wrestling, whether it's his own YouTube channel or the G4 stuff or whatever. Not an easy task to pull off. I think he's a really smart, creative guy, so he probably could pull it off. But I don't know if anybody'd really be into it. They would need some really good hook to it that would get people into it. But so yeah, I'll be honest with you, I don't know. That's not a task I would want to come up with because I don't think it's an easy one. Shotgun Sean says, will Joe Hendry ever make it one day on the WWE roster? I think in 2020. 6. I think he'll get called up the Raw after Mania 2026. I think he's going to be NXT probably sooner than later, and by 2026, he'll make it on the main roster. Heel Harrison says, would you like to see WWE bring back the moving graphics of superstars for when promoting them on screen for upcoming matches? I could give or take it, to be honest with you. I don't really care. They do that kind of on social media already. I've seen it. We've all seen it. But, like, I don't know. It's cool. It's fine. I like it. But, you know, I could do without it. It doesn't really make a difference to me. Irish Insight says, what are your memories of all the times you appeared on Quizzlemania? You and Larson were not just on 35, but Quizzlemania 2000, and it's what got me subscribed to your channel. Well, that's really cool. I always like that when we do stuff and it actually works and bringing people over to the channel. Obviously, my favorite memory is when we won Quizzlemania. Larson got that Brutus Barber Beefcake question, and it was sort of a Hail Mary. So that was really awesome. Yeah, the few times we were on, we had a good time. The last time we were on, it seemed like it was obvious it had sort of run its course. So I wasn't like anxious to get back on, but then I don't even think they do it anymore. So yeah, the first few times, like when Church of Joshi was on there with us, that was cool. When it's like I knew everybody and it's like, oh, we're all palling around. That's like at its most fun. There was a couple times when there were people on there that I just didn't really know all that well, and so there was no chemistry. And at that point, it just sort of becomes a chore, to be honest with you, because I'm not terribly good at trivia in the first place. So yeah, I don't know. I had a good time, but it definitely, by the last time we did it, I was like, okay, I don't know if I need to do this again. Jeff Hardy Fan 316 says, you hear about Dom Mysterio's autograph session? He was nice and took a couple of people in after he was about to leave. He stayed 10 minutes longer and had a private session. I did see that. I refuse to believe it. I think he's a bad guy. No, screw Dom Mysterio. He sucks. I'll never believe that he did something nice for people. No, I read that story. I thought it was awesome. He seems like a fucking cool guy, man. Shotgun Sean also asked, when will Roman's next world title reign come? At WrestleMania, before, after? I don't know. I don't know that he's going to want one. How do you follow up what he just did? How do you have him win a title, which is easy enough, but then have him lose it at some point? That, to me, is the more interesting thing. How would he lose it now? Because he's back and he's like going to be, now that he's a good guy, he's going to be the most like unbeatable guy there is. So I don't know how they're going to handle that. I mean, I guess they're going to consider like the Ula Fala, like the thing. If they do Rhodes Roman again, Cody's got to beat him because it's going to be a straight up one-on-one match with no interference. And that's going to like make Cody Rhodes. I think that's what they want to do. Unless they do a thing where, like at the Royal Rumble, Roman beats Cody, and then at WrestleMania, Rock beats Roman so that Cody can beat Rock next year. I don't know, man. I really don't know. I don't know. Wrestling Mark says, how would you book a future Orton and Rhodes feud? Huge fan of the content. I think we're going to get that at Saudi Arabia in November. That's my guess. They really like Randy Orton. They like the old-timey wrestlers. And so I think we're going to get that because that's a pretty big matchup there. And I feel like Saudi Arabia might want one of those big-time matchups. So I could see them doing Orton versus Rhodes there. Yeah, honestly, dude, SmackDown is so lacking incredible bad guys. You just have Orton go back to being an absolutely sinister son of a bitch. That's what you do. I don't know who's the most loved guy in the roster. R-Truth? Have Randy Orton just absolutely annihilate R-Truth or something like that. I know he's on a different brand, but whatever. Yeah, so I think you just, because I don't think you can do a copy paste of what they're doing with Kevin Owens right now. I don't think they're going to turn Kevin Owens heel. I think they would probably rather turn Randy Orton bad guy because they need really big, strong bad guys. Because they just let Lashley's contract expire. And they probably shouldn't have done that because you could have gotten a good 3 months of feuds out of Bobby Lashley and Cody Rhodes. I don't get it. Why would they have done that? SOTB Tampa says, where would you rank Uncle Howdy's original Feared theme as far as Def Rebel Productions? I don't think that's a Def Rebel thing. I could be wrong about that. I thought that was like a whole other guy thing. His original theme? Oh, Uncle Howdy's. Oh, I don't know. That one didn't really stick with me. Sorry, I thought you meant Bray Wyatt's. I'll do this one again. SOTB Tampa says, where would you rank the Uncle Howdy original Feared theme as far as Def Rebel Productions? It's personally my favorite. I hope they somehow weave it back in with the Wyatt Six. I'll be honest, that one did not stick with me. I didn't really like, I knew that he had his own theme, but like I had to listen to it later on and it really didn't stick out to me as like as iconic as any of Bray's themes. So I don't know. I'm really glad they went back to Shatter because that one is just an awesome theme. Big Daddy Bland says, if you were able to choose who won the Monday Night Wars, why would it be WCW? Number one reason, this is kind of grim, maybe kind of dark, because if WCW had won, you would be maybe, possibly, let's say, for example, somehow, some way, WWF's booking was dog shit. He never adjusted to the Attitude Era, and WCW is firing on all cylinders. And Vince McMahon ends up selling to Ted Turner. He ends up selling WWF to Ted Turner because it's just instant, like he can't run the business anymore. Something like that happens. You're potentially then doing away with what, 30 years, 25 years of Vince McMahon's behavior towards other wrestlers and other people. You rob him of the power of running the WWF, then a lot of the wrestlers that had unfortunate run-ins with Vince McMahon and people in general that had really shitty experiences with Vince McMahon, that goes away. Not to say he doesn't still do that stuff to other people, but at least it's not in the wrestling business anymore. So yeah, I mean that's one reason why you'd want WCW to have won the Monday Night Wars. Jalen LeGrant says Triple H hasn't gotten anyone over without a faction. Prove me wrong. Gunther's technically in a faction. Okay, Nia Jax. Tiffany Stratton. Cameron Shank says, which wrestler had the widest range and quality for matches? John Cena. His matches ranked from absolute dog shit to 5-star affairs. Getting back to that WCW Monday Night Wars question, Jakizi here says, how do you think Vince McMahon, what a great picture, by the way. How do you think Vince McMahon will ultimately be remembered? Do you think he has forever tarnished his legacy? Yes, I think he has tarnished his legacy. I think there will always be somewhat of an asterisk next to his name. I think it's impossible now that the sort of details that were revealed in the lawsuit are out there, unless there is some major, like, shift in that where it's all completely and totally disproven, which I would be kind of surprised if that was the deal. But these allegations are really serious, very severe, and completely damning. I think that he will be recognized as the guy. I think he'll always be recognized as the guy who, for lack of a better term, popularized professional wrestling, mainstreamed professional wrestling, certainly nationalized here in the United States professional wrestling, took it to that next level. I think that will always sort of go hand in hand with the horrible things that he did to other human beings. And so, yeah, and granted, I know there are allegations at this point, and a lot of that still has to be given its day in court, I suppose. But there's been so much corroborating evidence to suggest that he is simply a dog shit human being. That I think that's always going to be part of his legacy. I don't know that he can be. I know he hired some fancy PR firm to try to like rehab his public image, but like good luck with that. All right, I'll do a couple more of these. It's Aaron says, what's the sneaker collection looking like? I'll be honest with you guys. I dialed back on the sneakers. So I'm happy with what I got now, but yeah, I'm good with it now. I don't need any more. I haven't really been looking at kicks lately. The Robserver wants to know if I've tried any non-animal milks like soy, almond, or coconut. I've tried almond milk. I like it fine. It's not a good replacement for actual milk. Malicious 2008 says, you making more comic? No, not as of this time. I sort of had an idea to do. Literally last night I was sitting there trying to get to sleep and I was like, man, I should do another comic book. So maybe I will, but I don't have any like concrete plans. Juan Villa says, do you know how to swim? Yes. And I went on Thursday. It was like the second to last day. The public pool was going to be open. Me and Alabama went and we did some swimming. All right, I'm in on this one. Xavis online says, where's my dad? He left for Dippin' Dots in 04 and I'm starting to worry. Listen, son, those Dippin' Dots are very important. And then I just decided I didn't want to come back. I have more important things to do. Good luck to you. Checks in the mail. Tell your mom I said hey, but greener pastures. Am I right? Anyways, hey, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you guys around.